Aloha! This video is later than I had hoped, but I had to wait for this to come in. The Suspiria Stratagem, part 1 of 6. This is, I'm going to go through back issues here. Nothing new came out this week that I actually wanted to pick up, but I did order a number of back issues online, and that was one of the only things I have to talk about, along with issues that I have back issues that I order online and some issues that I got in the last pulls and pickups to talk about, and that's it. So I wouldn't blame you for skipping this. I shouldn't say that. I should say that at the end. Gotta keep up that watch time. This is an interesting story arc from what I've read. I'm about halfway through, and it basically involves the different members of the Serpent Society. Serpent Society, is that what it's called? Anyways, a group of villains that all are themed or have powers centering around snakes, and Diamondback is a part of that, and I'm not exactly sure whether, the confusing part for me here, Diamondback, as you can see, she originally she before was not very long ago from this issue, I remember being a good guy and working with Captain America, so it was a little bit confusing there because I skipped some issues, but she's invited on a cruise ship with her other compadres, and this cruise ship is being ran by AIM, which is a weapons arms dealing group, and they used to create illegal weapons, and now technically they're working with the law, and that's kind of throwing Captain America off. And along with that, not MODOK, but a new version of MODOK, MODOM, I think is what it's called. Yeah, MODOM is the running it all, basically running this cruise ship. So basically the long and short of it is that this story arc is a chance to show a bunch of superheroes in bikinis fighting one another, supervillains in bikinis fighting one another. It's been good so far, and certainly interesting. The main reason I picked up these issues was because it was the next story arc that I hadn't read yet. I read the past about 2 or 3 story arcs, and just decided that I'd continue with these. I got these on mycomicshop.com. Mycomicshop.com is a great site to look for comic books. If you're looking for comic books, you probably already know that if you're a comic book reader, but there's a number of people that don't read comic books or are just getting into comic books that are from my Discord, so that's definitely a site to check out. I'll put a link in the description below, and they have a wide variety of issues. They've been selling comic books for decades now, long before the internet was ever a thing, and they have quite a wide variety of issues for quite cheap. And what's interesting about these is that each issue, as far as I know, of the 6-part story arc contains a backup story. So in a way, look at that nice spread there. I haven't flipped through these later issues that I haven't gotten to yet. Really cool battle there that commences. One thing to note is that, because since I haven't read all of it, I can't really fully, say whether it's something you should read or not. But obviously, if you're into Captain America, wow, this series is kind of a... I think the writers were really into fan service in this era. Like, I read some other issues from around this time, and it seems like that's kind of the case. Anyways, speaking of backup stories, this is, again, here it is. And they all seem to focus around the different villain side. The villain's side, I should say. Didn't say that right the first time, I think. And bullpen bulletins, that's cool. And one of the backup stories, for example, was focusing on the Red Skull and his clones, and basically how there's a mysterious villain that Crossbones has been told to eliminate that is hunting down the Red Skull's clones and killing them all. So that's interesting for sure. And what has happened to Captain America here? I don't know. You're going to have to read it to find out. No Man's Land. And yeah, I'm not going to flip through these for that long. A cool shot there as well. Jeez, a lot going on. But I just wanted to show these off. And again, I really don't have a lot to show this episode. I halfway thought about not doing it, but here it is. And I like these issues from this time period. This was early 90s currently, and this was like, the last kind of era of Marvel that I really, or last era of Marvel, the last hurrah for this era of Marvel. Let me put it that way. And yeah. The color work is quite good. The issue quality in terms of condition is all good as well. So I'm definitely pleased with what I got from my comic shop, both in price and even though it seemed from it not coming in, you'd think, oh, did it take a long time to arrive? No, it shipped relatively quickly. It wasn't like, some eBay, it's like, a little bit slower than eBay possibly, but the prices you can't beat, and the condition is quite good. And they all come back and boarded, and they were packaged quite well. So if you're looking for buying comics and you don't know about mycomicshop.com, well, now you do. Next up, we have all the modern issues I picked up and have all read and am about to tell you about. Starting off with Nocterra issue 2. I picked up issue 3 in the last pulls and pickups and was so excited to read it that I read issue 2 online. And I talked about this before, but definitely read Nocterra. It's not, there's pros and cons here. It's quite good, quite solid for sure. I like the idea. It's an original idea. It's set in a Terra, in a land that's been encased in eternal Nocterra, in eternal darkness. And in this world of darkness, anyone that's left, any creature, any living thing that's left in the darkness for too long will become one with the shadows, so to speak. And people turn into monstrous creatures. Trees, it talks about when burning logs that have been left in the darkness, trees that have been left in the darkness, I should say, the wood doesn't burn much at all. It doesn't, something about the light from the fire doesn't glow very far, something like that. I thought that was really cool. Anything, and what's also cool is that besides turning into a creature of the dark, they also mutate and continue to transform and evolve. And this is the issue. In issue 1, that was basically just the premise that I told you. But in issue 2 here, I won't spoil it, but there's definitely some revelations as to why the things that are going on. It's cool that they, as opposed to drawing out this mystery for ages like you'd expect, they pulled a Walking Dead on you, and within the second issue, resolve a plot thread that you thought was going to be a ongoing one. In The Walking Dead, in issue 2, you thought, oh, he's not going to find his family yet. And it's kind of is that really a spoiler? But obviously he finds his family in the second issue. This, you would think that the whole series would all be about trying to figure out how exactly the darkness works and, what it's, why the world was encased in darkness. But that's already mostly solved in this issue. Not for sure. There's still some kind of plot threads surrounding that we don't know of yet. But overall, there's a lot of revelations in this. But I think that the main issue with this isn't the fact that there's no action. There's certainly action. It isn't the fact that the art is bad, because the art's not bad. I like the art quite a bit here. It's not, breathtaking or anything like that, but I think it does its job great. I think the main thing is that there's nothing that really stands out besides its premise. The execution, the premise has so much more room to be expanded, and it seems like they're answering questions almost too fast. I thought it was kind of cool that they answered it so quickly, but it's almost as if there's not enough new questions that are being put in its place. I think it worked with The Walking Dead because there was still so much more that we could expect, and I think that also has to do with the kind of comic book it was. Obviously, zombie-based media, we've seen how far that could be stretched, in a comedic direction, in a, government conspiracy kind of direction. There's a heist movie that just came out or is coming out with zombies. There's all sorts of zombie movies. But with something like this, it feels kind of like zombies, kind of not. It feels like there's like weird sci-fi elements going on. There's like, I don't want to say Blade Runner, but that's kind of what certain elements reminded me of in this. There's like car combat. So, a bit of Twisted Metal thrown in. So in a way, it feels like they're covering up, or they're uncovering things faster than they're showing you new elements. And in a way, that's fine if this series is going to be short, but I kind of wished, I didn't go in expecting this to be a short series. It's not a limited series. So if it's not going to be a limited series, if this is going to have any legs, they're really going to need to expand things further, and more than just in terms of plot threads, but in terms of subverting expectations. And I think that's really where it needs to grow. It's definitely quality for sure, but there's just not enough oomph It's a good series, but it's not a great series, and that's the thing, because it has the potential to be. And I think that I'm fine. I'm enjoying it more than enough to continue picking up issues of it. But I feel like if other people are if they're going to want to get other people on board, they're going to have to kind of subvert expectations, throw in more twists and turns and things, if they want this series again to have legs. And in issue 3 here, we learn it's basically a direct continuation of issue 2. What's interesting is that it's basically one big chase, right? So we have, I forget our main woman's name, but she's transporting this old man and the granddaughter of him. And she's transporting them to a place that they claim is basically the promised land, a place filled with light, a place that's our main character specifically will be able to, the main thing you care about is that this land supposedly has the cure for the darkness and the virus that basically turns them into these creatures. And this cure will be able to heal our main woman's brother and a stepbrother. And her stepbrother has been in the darkness too long and is starting to turn into one of the night. So that's why she's transporting them there. And what's cool is that I forget his name. I'll put it on screen now. But our main bad guy that's basically following the group and trying to track them down, and has his basically underlings chasing them down on bikes and cars and stuff. And it has basically commenced, like I said, this like Twisted Metal like car combat. He's somehow merged with the Knight in a way, and is related, I'm not going to say how, but he's related into the grandfather in a way. Not in terms of like blood relation, I should say, but like related in terms of they have a history with one another. And it's really cool. But it's not... there's some spoilers here. Is that spoilers? Yeah, that's okay. Anyways, I don't know. It's predictable. There was a twist there that you probably saw. I don't know. But there's not enough. There's not enough oomph. But one thing that I did think was cool is that that man over there that's merged with the darkness, that's like a living embodiment of the night, so to speak, I guess. I forget his name. Like I said, I'll put it on screen. But he is able to tap into our main woman's headgear and is able to communicate with her and taunt her. And he does that while she's driving, but also tries to make a deal with her that if she gives over the grandfather and the daughter, because like I said, the grandfather has a past with him, and if our main woman gives them over, he'll stop pursuing her and will heal her brother. And she basically has, even though she's kind of a very flawed character, a character that has had a rough past and is basically cold to the world around her, she has this kind of moment, this revelation, where she decides to do the right thing, obviously, and continue the chase and continue taking these people to where they say that they're going to take. And she basically has to have some faith that they're right and that they will be able to heal her brother and that they're not just lying. And that's it's really a good scene because it shows it's back. I'm not going to flip back to it because of some spoilers. You've already kind of saw it. I don't know if it's big spoilers or not. I'll kind of put a tag somewhere to warn you guys ahead of time. But basically, it was a really good scene, and I think that it shows character growth, and not in an artificial way. It really felt real. And once again, a twist here setting things up. But again, it still has that issue where it's like there was twists, but they didn't really feel exactly like twists. Like I could kind of tell what was going to happen here. I could kind of tell what was going to happen previously. It wasn't. It just didn't wow me. Nothing's wowing me. Nothing's really making me go, oh man, wow, is that? Oh, no element of this is making me do that, and that's okay. It doesn't need to, because there's enough good elements, like I talked about, in terms of its action, in terms of its concept, in terms of its artistry, that I'm going to continue to read it. But if it needs more to really suck people in, and I think that if it doesn't step it up within the next few issues, other people are going to drop it. Other people just aren't going to hop on, period, and the series is going to fail. But who knows? I really hope that this has legs. I really hope that this is around for quite a while, and that's because besides it being enjoyable, it also has quite a bit of room for growth and expansion. There's also a little teaser here in the back for a different series that's going to be coming out. And yeah, that was Nocterra. Next up, we have Swamp Thing issue 3, I believe. Issue 3. Swamp Thing, when I first read the Future State issues, the first Future State issue, there was only 2, I enjoyed and was a good setup. Issue 2 was even better and really paid things off. Issue 1 I thought was good but not great. Issue 2 was like borderline great. It was sub-great, but not by a lot. It was definitely a good issue, and it really threw me into this Swamp Thing series, and I kind of had higher hopes, not super high hopes, but I was really hoping it was going to be good, and it certainly was, and went past my expectations, as a matter of fact. And issue 2 was once again even better. I think out of the 4 issues of Swamp Thing that we've gotten from this year, the 2 Future State issues and the 2 issues prior to this, issue 3, I think it just kept getting better, basically. But that's what I should have said the first time, but whatever. I'm telling you the journey that I've gone on with these Swamp Thing issues so far, because this was the worst of all of them, I think. Maybe not as bad as issue 1 of Future State, but I don't know. It wasn't bad at all. Let me preface with it wasn't bad at all, but it wasn't exactly what I had hoped. This is starting a new story arc. There's potential for sure, but in this 10 issue series, it was really cool that issue 1 and 2 were just a story, and once it was over, it was over. And this is continuing. Technically, it's continuing a very small plot thread from the last 2 issues, but not really. This is kind of its own thing. I mean, the reason why what's going on is something that's been throughout the series, but it's not really directly tied with issues 1 and 2. So, do I still think that you should read those issues if you somehow pick this up? Oh, yeah. But that's the thing, those issues were a lot better than this, and I feel like if they were going to start out, they could have started with this plot, because it's so loosely tied to issues 1 and 2, and since I think issues 1 and 2 were better, it almost would have been better if it built up, it got better each issue. Seems like we kind of took a step back in terms of quality, and again, it's technically tied to issues 1 and 2, but not by a lot. The art still is just as good as always. There's not a lot of action, but the action that is here is definitely cool, and really it's mostly about the world, especially throughout this series, but especially this issue in particular. It's really about the world and learning more about it, why it is the way it is, why it is the way it is, how it is, and how it works, basically. But the actual plot threads involving character interactions and exactly why things are going on the way that they're going on, it's not described as good as it could be. That's the real hook, and it feels like they're kind of dragging that out, if that makes any sense. Dragging out the mystery farther than it needs to be, and basically just kind of the revelations about Poison Ivy and what was it? Poison Ivy and Ivy. Yeah. There's Ivy and Poison Ivy. Poison Ivy is the Poison Ivy we know, and Ivy is the good version of her. I'm guessing she's been in other stories, DC stories of some kind, but her whole inclusion in this, sure, she fits in terms of her being a green a DC character that controls nature, but it doesn't really fit in terms of it doesn't really feel like fan service either, which is good. It didn't feel like, that was kind of my worry going in, that it would just feel like they're throwing it in because Batman's popular. That's not really the case, but it doesn't really feel like they're throwing it in because it would have benefited the story either. I don't know, it was just a kind of a weird issue. Again, there were some cool revelations. This, I don't think is really spoilers unless you've read past, quite a few past Swamp Thing issues or something, but this was a cool revelation. And again, other things like the art and the action are, just as good as they were before. I just don't exactly know if I'm technically on board with the way that the story's going, and kind of how in depth they're going with the green, because it almost left me a little bit more confused. But maybe that's just me. Not a bad issue at all, though. Next up, we have Batman 108. Batman in the Future State issue. Yeah, I'll keep comparing because that's, I haven't read a lot of this era of Batman. I haven't read, Swamp Thing before the issues that I mentioned. So, I just gotta compare it to what I know. And what I know is that the Future State issues of Batman I wasn't a big fan of. And I really had hoped that this new Batman series, or the issues coming that were post-Future State Batman, I really hoped that they kind of got rid of the Future State stuff and weren't going to be connected. Well, they are connected, and they're heavily connected. And I didn't really feel like that was necessarily to the detriment of the series at first. But I'm kind of starting to, not fully. I still think the series has, still has some roots in enough plain old everyday Batman that I'm enjoying it enough to keep reading it. But this was definitely a step back from the momentum that issue 107 was building up to. These numbers, man, you can't, it's not like 1, 2, 3, 4, 10, 108, so it's harder for me to remember. And then, like, what's crazy and funny is that DC also has other series that are going on, issues 700 or 1000, and they keep their legacy numbering. Other series like Swamp Thing or whatever, I mean, it's a limited series, so I don't know if that exactly counts, but other series that Suicide Squad, for example, that have had, they don't continue legacy numbering for that series. They continue this weird numbering here. I forget if this isn't legacy numbering, obviously. I forget what the numbering is based off of, why they're at 108. And then other series, they are continuing legacy numbering, so it's all over the place. Anyways, a little tangent there. I just don't like the direction that things are taking. It really feels like this killed the momentum, or it killed some of the momentum, not fully. Again, I'm enjoying it enough to continue reading it, and there's definitely enough, of the Batman I know for me to want to continue reading it. But I don't know, they kind of changed things in directions that I didn't exactly want them to go. They took things in directions, I should say, in a direction that I didn't really want things to go. They're focusing too much on the Future State elements. And they're trying to add depth, but while they're trying to add depth, I think they're changing things at too fast of a rate. It seems like there's a YouTuber that I watch, I'll just say the name, Comics by Perch, and he talked about how it seems like, and I definitely am with him on this, it really feels like what he said, which is that they're really trying to fast track to the Future State stuff, because they already told us that that's a possible future, but instead of having that be a possible future and then just continuing with these other series, it seems like they really want to keep going in that direction. But instead of going in that direction where it takes 5 years or whatever to get up to it, which is where these take place, Future State for the Batman books was like 2025, I think, 2026. It seems like they're fast tracking to get to it because we already know what's going to happen. And, they're kind of like, okay, we got to get to this. We can't draw this out for 5 years. And I almost think that's to their detriment. I know they probably want to get to it fast so then they can get to the next gimmick. But they shouldn't be doing gimmicks if that's what you want to call it. They shouldn't be doing these new, series-altering changes if they don't have confidence that they can make it last. Right? What is the point of having Future State if Future State is only going to last a year or whatever, as opposed to something that we build up to 2025 or 2026. And I don't know. I don't know, man. They want to make money, I guess. I don't know. Maybe that's too cynical, but that's kind of feels like what they're doing, because like even if you're enjoying this, it feels odd they're fast tracking it by so much. Especially like even again issues 107 I really thought had a lot more ambiance, and it felt more like a traditional Batman story with Future State elements in the background. And in the course of one issue, it seems like they're really amping it up way faster than I had expected. It's the first appearance of Miracle Molly, which is a new character. She's part of basically this resistance that's trying to stop the impending state of Gotham, the impending future of Gotham in Future State. And it's just kind of cheesy and a little just kind of not my thing. It's the whole kind of resistance against the government, rising up, people in power kind of thing. And it's just not exactly where I'd want things to go. But there was a cool revelation in here. I hope I didn't give it away by flipping through that. I don't think I did. It's that's always kind of the tough thing with spoilers. Like, is a spoiler if you're not reading the series, or if you're quite behind in a series? What exactly constitutes as a spoiler? Because sometimes I show things, and sometimes I show things, and it kind of makes me think, hey, that's not necessarily a spoiler if you don't know what's going on. So hopefully I didn't give it away. But there were some cool revelations for sure. Just not exactly digging certain directions of where the plot's going, but I have enough faith, and I enjoyed enough, especially in terms of the art, to want to continue reading it. One thing I wanted to mention was that probably the coolest thing about this book, just past the revelations, probably even past the artwork, is the history that they're kind of adding to Gotham. What's kind of cool is that for these issues, throughout these issues this year of this Batman series in 2021, they have been focusing a lot more on how Gotham has had to recover from different accidents and tragedies that have happened in the city, and basically how they've affected it. And this part of the city is an example where this is a great example of this, where all these buildings are half-built skyscrapers, and it was the Wayne Enterprises, right, that was rebuilding this part of the city, and it's only half done. And that's kind of cool because, I mean, does that seem cool to some people? Maybe not for some people, but for me that was kind of cool, and seems like other people on my league of comic geeks, seems like some other people are digging that too. I really thought that was cool because it was a small touch, but it was a nice touch because it felt like they were acknowledging the fact that they were acknowledging events that happened in previous issues. Well, even though I haven't even read them, but I know the gist of what happens in comic books. Big aliens come down, destroy things. The gist by now. You've seen comic book movies, you've read comic books from any era, you've seen what happens to cities. It's cool that they're acknowledging that, and I feel like more things of that could help kind of alleviate my distaste and distress towards the way that the plot is going if they continue doing some things that they are doing right, such as that I'm currently enjoying, such as, again, the art and kind of the world building and things of that nature. I don't think they're ever going to really get me. I'm kind of set in my mind. Maybe they can change my mind, but I'm kind of set in my ways in terms of how I feel on Future State. But I mean, if it's only going to be a year and they're able to keep up other elements, maybe it won't be half bad. Who knows? This B story, though, actually probably my favorite part of this issue, and that could kind of feel like, well, you bought it for the B story. No, I enjoyed the first story, but the B story here, secondary story, whatever you want to call it, I really enjoyed. I thought it was hilarious. There's these, it continues from the last issue, there's these laser tigers that are facing Ghostmaker. This takes place in the past, and is basically all of Ghostmaker's villains are all teaming up to basically take him down. He infiltrates their island hideout. They send laser tigers towards him. He slices the head off of one of them, grabs the head, and shoots the other one with the laser of the tiger, shoots it through the other tiger. Very cool scene. You get some more kind of stories surrounding who the villains are. This little girl, Cyborg, and that's really cool as well. Gets sliced in half and can turn herself into, it's not like sand, but it's like goop stuff. Reminds me of Sandman from Spider-Man, and multiply herself and stuff. Really cool. The art is different, which is kind of odd because of how different it is, but at the same time I like it in its own way. The kind of detailed line work and things of that nature. Some of the way the faces are is a little odd, but it's definitely kind of fits with the tone overall, the way it's, the way things are drawn, and kind of the very stylized look of characters, and the more heavy line work, I guess I should say. So yeah, that was Batman 108, and that was it. Wow, we're done already. I didn't have a lot to show, but I guess I talked for a good amount of time. Holy crap. If you enjoyed this, well, thank you for enjoying it, and tell me why you enjoyed it in the comments below. If you didn't, tell me why you didn't enjoy it also. And thank you very much for watching. I'm going to go take a piss.